Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hobbyist Fishing YouTube channel. Today we have another special guest. We have Doug from Throwback Baits. Doesn't need much of introduction, but also Kyle from Witch Doctor Tackle, who has been a partner with me at this point. If you don't know what Witch Doctor Tackle is and you've been watching me, where have you been? But super excited to bring Doug on today to talk about big glide baits, throwback baits as well, and all things big baits. So thank you, Doug, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, thank you, Kyle, always for being here.
Always, as always, buddy.
So Kyle, if you want to kick things off today.
Yeah, so what we can do is we can open it up. I know, Doug, you and me kind of first met as we were doing some research over here at Witch Doctor. We were looking into designing and building a new type of swim bait blank and rod for the industry. And so we're, of course, doing our research, our due diligence. And in that, we like to speak to the industry experts and kind of network and talk to people about what they're doing, what they're using. And you shared a lot of good insight when we spoke last. So I'd love to kind of hear, really kind of, we could go back to that initial conversation of when it comes to swim bait rods, what are you evaluating? What are you looking for? What really has stood out to you in the past, especially what you guys and the team over there at Throwback are kind of looking for?
Yeah, so I guess depending on what I'm fishing, a majority of our baits in particular are in that 2-3 ounce range. So for the most part, I'm fishing a rod that's 1 to 4 ounces. Has a good parabolic action to it, as most of our baits at this point are hard baits. I mean, we have soft bait coming down the line. So then I'm looking for a little different rod in that case, but 90% of the time I've got a 1 to 4 ounce rod, Leviathan Omega, on deck. I started out with Dobbins 795s. I mean, those are great rods as well. Give you a little more range on them. Different price point too, but that's what I'm looking primarily for a majority of baits. I'll step up to 2 to 6. All the rods I'm using currently are 8 feet. I do think I would be interested in a slightly shorter rod if I felt I could get that same parabolic action. And matter of fact, when I get up to the much bigger baits, when I'm throwing 12-inch glides, I'm actually jumping up to an 8.5 foot, and I'm using a Dobbins 867 for stuff like that. I don't particularly like an 8-foot rod, or I haven't found an 8-foot rod that I love for baits that size, because I feel like you lose a little bit of that flex in them. But so that's what I'm using. I mean, on deck I've got a mix of Dobbins Champions and the Leviathans currently. Soft bait rods, whole different story. I'm still utilizing the Leviathans, but using their soft bait specific rods that you can really drive that hook home.
And for most of your rods, we talked a little bit about this. I've talked with other guys. Like, there's a lot of our rods are split grips when we make them, and a lot of people like those one-piece butts and one-piece grips on the back ends, like especially for how they cast and how they flow, and how they feel. Like, what's kind of your take in comparing those?
Yeah, I like the full grips in particular. I mean, I old school, but I love the cork. I have, obviously, the Omegas are foam. Their soft swims though are cork as far as the Leviathans go. I know I just started dabbling in musky fishing a little bit more, and I know some of the St. Croix rods that I've been looking at have a split grip, so maybe explore that option a little more. But as far as the butt goes, I mean, I'm looking for that 17-18 inch butt full grip.
Got it. Yeah, I mean which is kind of, I don't know if it's industry standard, but when I've talked to many people, that's kind of what I'm hearing as what they've either used in the past, what they expect, what they like. The split grips, people do like them. It's just not as common. In the swim bait space is very unique and very specific, and it's very niche.
Yeah, I'm a split grip guy.
Okay.
Which
Well,
is,
and I used if we go back to the conventional days, I mean, I used split grips, and I feel like it was important then for the sensitivity, and when you're throwing a big swim bait, I guess I'm not too worried about the sensitivity of it. So
yeah, I think it's like a preference thing because for me, like, was like a split grip rod. The way that maybe it's because I have either shorter arms. I have short arms on a big frame. So the way that when I hold like a big glide bait rod and kind of tuck it under your shoulder, your tuck it under your arm, I like that pivot point that it creates, like the butt of that rod right in there. I don't know if that's, I think it's so much a personal preference thing almost, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, like I think like you're a full grip guy, I'm a split grip guy, and flip a coin, and everyone has a different opinion.
Depends on
Yeah.
the length though too, because like you just touched on, if the length is not quite like your, which would be interesting to see you fish like the 6'6" and like keeping that tucked under the arm, because like that those the shorter the rod and the shorter the butt, I'd be curious how long the butt is on the 6'6". He's gonna go get it. But I mean that would be interesting because I mean, like we have a 710 extra heavy, and that's our go-to swim bait rod, and that's
Yep.
2 to 6, 2 to 8 ounces.
Okay.
And that would be kind of your heavy duty go-to larger swim bait glide bait rod. That's a 710 split grip. And that one, it's full graphite, which it still has that parabolic bend that you need, but it has that sturdy kind of backbone throughout the rod, so it'll load up and it'll load up perfectly, but it's got the backbone to get that fish up and set that hook.
Okay.
Yeah, so
You got there.
this is the 6'6" and the split grip. I don't know what the length on that is, but holding it, as you can see, like when I tuck it under my arm, it's right here on my rib cage.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a personal.
You might need a longer. I mean, that's a great. Again, the shorter rod. Going back to the concept that the shorter rod gives it better, tighter motion and allows you to work the bait better. Usually, depending on what you're throwing, of course. But like the shorter rods do have their own value to it. But the question becomes of like how you handle it, how you manage it,
Yeah.
the feel.
And the one thing I just remembered that the reason why I like the split grip is because depending on the clothes I'm wearing, if you have a full grip or like cork, it'll kind of catch your shirt throughout the day. But when it's a split grip and you have that smooth material on a t-shirt or like a sweater, it'll slide up against it pretty nicely. I think that's my only thing there.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say about overall length, I mean, I don't mind an 8-foot rod, an 8.5-foot rod. I'm fishing out of a 21-foot bass boat. I mean, a lot of our following is paddleboard fishing, kayak fishing, fishing from shore, and I think it makes a big difference there. I mean, it's a lot harder to sling an 8.5-foot rod in those circumstances. So
Yeah. Well, I know the three of us could talk about rods all day, but before we get so sidetracked, I want to make sure, Doug, we give you a chance to talk about Throwback Baits itself. Tell us a little about how Throwback Baits started for anyone that may not know, kind of the ethos. We were just talking about, I bought some baits from you guys during the New England Fishing Expo, and they're beautiful baits. And a lot of the baits you guys look at, and a lot of at least from my understanding of Throwback, there's so many baits that are built for utility with Throwback, but also there's this huge following of collectors as well. So Tell us a little about Throwback and kind of like design philosophy on your baits, not just paint jobs, but baits as well, and kind of what you're trying to bring to fishers, to anglers around the world.
absolutely. We'll go back to the beginning. I mean, we're talking pandemic time frame here. Kyle Buckles is the one that kind of started this out of his garage. And I met Kyle through, I was swim bait fishing for quite a while. I did a lot of tournament angling early on, shifted to a trophy fish mindset, and then I was throwing swim baits pretty exclusively. And I honestly, I thought I was the only one in Minnesota throwing them at the time. I didn't know anyone else throwing them. I've found a lot of people that are now, but and so I was on Instagram and seen this guy from Minnesota that hand carved the swim bait. And I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, and that's how we met. And that's how we started talking swim baits, and learned he was 30 minutes up the road, and, made plans to get out fishing, and just kind of grew our relationship from there. Fast forward a couple of years, his business was growing and he wanted to scale it a little bit more. He brought on a business partner, Billy, and was looking to get into a shop. I mean, up until that point, this was all happening out of his garage. I would go over there on my days off and, just hang out and help out. But, I had a career and everything else going, and kind of hit a point where he was trying to grow and I was looking for a career change, and joined forces with him and Billy. And that's been about 3 years now. 3 years come April, we've been in a shop, and just slow and steady growth. I mean, I remember hiring our first guy in the shop, Scott. He's our primary painter. You met Scott at the expo, and he was the first one we hired, and just kind of growing from there. We've got like 11 employees in that shop now, and really running out of space. I mean, we're looking to expand and grow and build our own place. It'll all happen in time, but so that's the story of Throwback. I think what we're trying to do, it all started with the resin wake walker, right? And different variations of that. It went from the wake walker to the flea shed, the mob, all kind of that same body style. And took a while for us to come out with the first glide. And the first glide we came out was that retro, a 9-inch slow wide glide. And once we got that dialed in, it was each glide thereafter came a little bit easier. We came out with the Metro, the Retro CT, and then the Mini. And I can go into, the differences of them all, but just giving you that history. I think where we're going, I mean, we're still innovating. We're still trying to come out with new and different resin baits, but we also want to bring baits to the market. I think we learned a lot of our market, especially with Marshall, the homeless fisherman. A lot of that market were younger kids that couldn't necessarily grab $150 swim bait, and that's what we want. We want big baits for the people. That's our goal. And so we've been working on this ABS version, looking to offer a better price point, and we you can collaborate and do those kinds of things, but it's something we tried to do on our own. And we did. It took us a while, but we're really happy with the result. That Wake Walker LT, don't want to take away from any resin sales, but I'd argue that swims better than the resin version. It's more consistent, and it's a $50 price point. So getting that bait in the hands of the people is really the goal, and just growing that line. So the Wake Walker LT, great bait. It wakes. You can crank it down a foot or so. We were just in Mexico not too long ago, and I was utilizing the whiteout LT, cranking it down a little bit along the brush, and caught some big fish on it. So it's a fantastic bait. Great price point. And then next in that lineup is going to be the Metro LT, which we hope to have midsummer. So the design, it looks just like the Metro. See if we can get it there. It swims fantastic, super slow sink. And we've got about 8 colors that are in the works right now. So hopefully see that midsummer. Definitely see it at ICAST. And I guess the future is to grow that line while we innovate with the resin, but continue to grow that line of ABS baits.
Oh, that's awesome to hear, and it's actually really refreshing to hear from like someone who runs a bait business, where it's like trying to, you guys are trying to find this really nice balance between exclusivity in your baits, but also affordability and accessibility. For a long time, especially like the question I get asked, I think the most often about big baits, big glide baits, wake baits, everything is, what's the cheapest one? Because, everyone kind of understands that, like, you want to buy a Depths 250, that's going to be almost $200.
Yeah.
So it's really great to hear that, from your guys' perspective, was the ABS and resin, and understanding that there's, of course, a group of people that will spend the money on these more exclusive baits, but also bringing something for the people, like you said. So it's super exciting to hear. And kind of also hearing about the different iterations of baits, and like, having the Wake Walker go from resin to ABS now. I wanted to hear kind of, has there been any standout like challenges when it comes to the design of these baits, or like in that journey of designing these baits, what do those things kind of look like?
Yeah, so early on, I mean, the Wake Walker LT took about 3 years to come to fruition. It was a lot of back and forth with, I mean, we just didn't have the know-how, and so we found a great partner in working on the design and the production of this, but it was still a lot of back and forth. And I guess we've been able to streamline that because one of the business partners, Billy, sat down one day and he's like, I'm going to learn CAD. Like, this is going to cut out so much time. And he did. I mean, and he's amazing at it. The fact that he just sat down and decided to learn it is great. But now we've got an office full of 3D printers, resin printers, and so forth, where we can, and we understand how the bait is designed at this point. So, we can shell out a Metro and work on weighting and do all that without all the back and forth. So I'd say that was the biggest challenge early on, but we've been able to streamline that. And again, without sacrificing any quality in these baits. I mean, that's extremely important to us to have a high quality bait, even at that price point. So, yeah, we've got some great partners in coming to production with that, but we're able to do a lot of the design in-house at this point. So that saves us a lot of time.
Awesome. And then kind of piggybacking off that, having gone through all those iterations, I guess we'll kind of break this up into two parts, right? When it comes to top water wake baits like the Wake Walker, almost lost my rod there. When it comes to top water baits like the Wake Walker and things like and glide baits like the Retro Glide, is there like a specific action or a specific movement that these baits make that you think is so important for a bait to capture to catch fish? Is what we're trying to do. Is there something like in the wake baits that you're looking for and something in the glide baits you're looking for?
I guess I wouldn't say specific. I mean, we even have glide baits that have different actions from model to model. I mean, we'll let the fish tell us, right? I mean, obviously it needs to look good to us, but we put it through testing, and we've got a lot of relationships all over the world. I mean, Tana in Australia, and we're sending to guys in the US and really everywhere to test these out for us. I mean, and that's really important to us too. I mean, a lot of people, we like to show what we're working on and the behind the scenes. I mean, our soft bait, I don't know, we've been teasing that for, it feels like well over a year now, and everybody's like, oh, when's it coming? And I think the important thing to understand is we're not going to just rush to throw something out there. Yeah, we will think we're close, and then we'll back off if we think that something's not right with it. So, but the most important thing is the durability and the fish catches, right? So, I mean, I would say that each bait has a unique action that we are looking for, but it differs. I mean, we have the Wake Walker and the Wake Walker LT, and then we have the smaller version, the cheat code, and the cheat code excels more at cranking down versus waking on the surface. So we have our wide glide, we have our choppy glides. Everyone's a little different.
Interesting. So yeah, so I think it's something that's great to hear as well, because I like a specific style of bait, and I'm a big floating glide bait guy and choppy floating glide baits because I pitch my baits to cover and I need to keep that bait in that cover as long as possible. So I think you bring up a really great point that it's a lot of people ask me, like, what do I need to look for in my glides? Which glide is going to be best? And it's such a hard answer to give because it really comes down to where you're fishing and how you fish. Guys fishing from a boat will fish very differently from bank anglers. So great to hear that from you as well. And hopefully someone else can hear that and learn that and stop asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm with you. I like the low floats that you can get down. They'll run a foot below the surface and then they'll rise back up. And I really like that with my wider glides. But I like that in glides like the Metro. I mean, that's the conversation I have with people all the time. The sink, what's the sink rate on the Metro? We try to be right on that line of low flow, extra slow sink, because with stock hardware, because what you can do from there is you can upgrade your hooks, you can upgrade your split rings, and you can tune that to the sink rate that you want. If we had a glide bait that sank like a rock, you can't make it float. You you can't slow it down. I mean, there's float boards and stuff like that, but it's much easier to get a bait to sink at the rate you want than to float at the rate you want.
Yeah.
So we try to be right on that line. Our CTs are more of the slow sink. They'll sink a little faster. That's our 9-inch choppy glide. But those Metros, we try to be right on that line where you can tune it and fish it how you want to.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And is there, I guess, of course, you have a lot of experience with these bigger baits. Is there like a piece of advice you'd have for someone getting into fishing big baits? Like, is there something that you wish you know when you started this whole thing? That when you made that switch of like, I can catch bass with soft plastics, no problem, but I want to go monster hunting. I want to find the biggest bass in every lake and pond I can find. And when you made that switch, what was the first thing? Like, what advice do you wish you had back then?
Yeah. Oh man, so many points, and I feel like we can go many different directions here. It's such a big, we kind of talked about pricing a little bit. It's such a big barrier of entry, expensive rods, expensive reels, expensive baits. And don't get me wrong, there's so many great bait makers and their baits sell out for a reason. You'd think, I mean, I throw our baits a lot, but I own tons of baits. I own baits from every maker. I look at them as art. I love to fish them and so forth. But the first big fish I ever caught was on an S-Waver. And that, I think, and it was a Dobbins Fury 795, and it was my conventional reel, so I think there's this image that you need this $500 rod and this Conquest reel and this $400 bait, and I would say when you're starting out, just have fun with it. Utilize what you have and what's within your means and grow from there. So I think, if you're just starting out, that's the one piece of advice that I do have. There's so many roads you can go down. I fished a lot prior to Swimbaits, but it was still this rabbit hole of what line do I use? What rods do I need? And at the end of the day, I tried them all. I tried braid to leader. I tried Copoly. I tried all these things when it comes to line. And I ended up going right back to the same Abrasics that I was already using, maybe just upsized it, right? And same thing with reels. It's like, oh, I need this big round reel. I need that. And I went right back to the reels I was using and just got a bigger size. So use what you have confidence in. I think that's most important. Same thing. I mean, you could brands of hooks, whatever. Use what you have confidence in. And then the other side is just have patience. I mean, it can be a grind sometimes for sure. But I've learned over the years that if I grind it out, I'm usually rewarded. I mean, I might get outfished by a buddy of mine, but maybe at the end of the trip, I catch the biggest fish, and that's what I'm after, or I catch the most big fish, or whatever the case may be. I think that's the biggest thing is you got to have confidence and patience.
Yeah,
quality over quantity.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. People, they see, of course, on Instagram and TikTok, it's easy to see guys like the homeless fisherman just nailing these massive fish, but he's fishing all the time, and I'm sure there's a lot of times throughout the day where he's not catching fish, of course, throwing these big baits. And I think a lot of people are just so used to seeing these video of guys catching 10 pounders on glide. They're like, oh yeah, if I buy a glide, that's going to happen immediately, but it's not really the case. You're thinning out the population. You're really taking 90% of your, maybe even more, of your bass in your body of water, saying, nope, you're not going to be able to even try to come close to this bait, and you're looking for that top 5%.
Yeah, and a couple of stories, I guess, right along those lines. So last spring, I was fishing. Every spring, I sign up, and there's some online swim bait tournaments, and I sign up for them because that's when I have the most time to fish. But I signed up for this online fishing tournament, and I don't know what my exact weights were. I target smallmouth because our smallmouth are bigger than our largemouth. So I had probably a smallmouth just shy of 6 and probably a handful of others right around 5, over 5, whatever. And, somebody messaged me or commented and it's like, oh, you guys is fishing so good up there. It's so easy or whatever. And I'm like, I've been sleeping in my truck for 3 days, to literally get 1 to 2 bites a day. I mean, and that's what you see on social media. Of course, you see the big fish, right? You don't see the grind, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's worth it. Like, that's the fish I'm after. I'll also say, and you have this idea in your head. I had it too. Hey, I'm gonna go down to Texas and I'm gonna catch a 10-pounder, and that's just the mentality, is that the fishing's so easy down there, and if you put in the time, you can catch them for sure. But I've been making these treks to Texas once a year, twice a year for 5, 6, 7 years, and I finally cracked 10, this last spring, yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Everything you see on social media, of course, you see the good stuff, and not to discourage everybody, you got to stick with it. And I stuck with it, and I finally got those fish,
Yeah, I think it's definitely, you just have to go into glide bait fishing, buy that S waiver, just throw it until your arms hurt, and and the second you hit that big fish, it all clicks, and you're like, all right, that's all I want to do anymore.
Yeah, 100%. And that was the turning point for me. And trust me, there's still days I'm out there like, why am I doing this? But then that one bite comes and you're like, this is why I'm doing this. So,
I was like, of course I can put a wacky worm on and I'll catch a bunch right now, but
yeah, and that was it. Our last trip to Texas. I mean, again, been doing it for years. It was a grind, and finally I cracked a 10. Then I cracked 2 of them in 24 hours. And it finally clicked. And there were other guys fishing with me, and they didn't catch them. It just finally clicked. So you just got to put in the time, but it does pay off.
Well, I think too, like you touched on something earlier, which is like adapting. And like we went out last week out to Okeechobee out here in Florida. I sent Xander some photos of some bass we're catching.
So jealous.
We caught, I think the biggest we had was about 8-9 pounds that day, and it was a big boy. But I went out with one of our pros, and what I noticed that was interesting, just going out with him, is he's grown up in Okeechobee. He knows it like the back of his hand. We go to a spot he knew, we'd see if there's a bite. If the bite was on, it was on. If it wasn't, he moved on to the next spot. But what I noticed is he'd throw a crankbait, get about 4 or 5 good hits, get the fish in, and then the bite would turn off. Switch the color of the crankbait, it would turn back on. Or he'd switch to another bait, and like that's all it takes is like, it's maybe what you're doing, you're throwing your glide, you're throwing your swim bait, and to be honest, it just may not be the right color for the water, it may not be the right fit, might not have the right movement, and you just switch it up, and that bite might be on. And then once the fish catch on to it, like it's all it takes is switching again, and that bite, like watching him do that in such a routine way as a tournament angler, you realize that that's sometimes like the fish are smart. Like you just got to switch it up, keep trying, and you could throw all day, but make sure you're not throwing the same thing all day, because that way you increase your chances. You increase the adapting for something to actually a likely outcome to happen. So
for sure. I mean, 2 points. I think to go off of that. One, you're right. I mean, throw your top water, throw your glide, and throw your bottom bounce and soft bait. Cover those different areas of the water column for sure. But that's another point you made, is you go to them spots you have confidence in. If you're picking up a swim bait for the first time, go to a spot holds fish, that you've caught fish before, and you can't just go out there and think it's a magical bait that you can fish anywhere and you're gonna catch. So utilize those baits, try those new techniques, on those confidence spots. So
yeah, and I think also like go to spots that there's a lot of fish, because you'll be surprised at how small of a fish will hit a big glide bait. They shouldn't even be able to fit that in their mouth, but they'll still hit it. But like even just those smaller fish biting, it teaches you so much about what action, like thinking back to what did I do with my rod and reel right before that fish hit it. It's such good data to learn, and it goes so far in glide bait fishing. It is hard. It is hard to go days without catching a bass and then finally get that big one. But if you can get smaller bass that will just hit it out of just pure frustration, it teaches you so much about how to fish these baits.
Yeah. Well, and I even fishing like clear water where you could see, the interaction with them. I've learned a lot over the years by doing that, and I won't even get into live scope and stuff like that, but there's so many opportunities to learn, exactly how the fish are interacting with your bait. I mean, a lot of times I can tell right away if a fish is going to eat or not. So yeah, all great points. The other thing I'll say about swim baits, I mean, and again, fishing conventional, fishing tournaments, I'd hate pulling up to a spot and see a guy leaving that spot, right? I wouldn't want anything to do with that. If I'm pulling up to a string of docks or a point and I'm gonna throw a jig and I see a guy leaving, I'm like, you know what, he already did that. But with swim baits, I have no problem fishing behind somebody. I'm fishing for a different fish at that point, and I feel like just because that fish doesn't hit a jig doesn't mean it won't hit a swim bait, and vice versa. Nobody should feel weird fishing behind me, but yeah, if you're going to throw a jig behind a jig, I mean, it's still a jig, Yeah. So I think that's one thing too. Just, don't be afraid to hit those spots and keep grinding.
Doug, thank you so much for all the knowledge on glide bait fishing. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people to learn and get motivated to fish these big baits from that. But before we go, I wanted to kind of just ask something away from the baits. I'm starting my own business. For someone looking to start their own niche business, probably most likely within fishing, that's going to be fueled by a passion of theirs, what's the number one advice you give them?
Yeah, I think, social media is so powerful these days. I mean, if you're trying to grow a brand, first of all, I'd say it has to be more about the brand than the product, right? You got to grow a brand. Customer service is so important. We get hundreds of messages a day, and I try to answer every one of them, and so I think customer service is extremely important. When it comes to the product itself, prove it, prove that it catches fish, get it into the hands of guys that will put it to use, and be receptive to feedback. That you will learn the most from the most, constructive feedback, so take feedback well, and prove your concept before you try selling it to the masses. Do your homework, do your research, get some good people behind you on board, that are working with you, and anything's possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's just about our time here today. So again, thank you so much, Doug, for taking the time to talk with me and Kyle here today. Where can people find you, or where can people find Throwback Baits? You can plug yourself right now.
Yep. So throwbackbaits.com is our website. We do drops pretty much weekly. We've been dropping pretty consistently on Fridays. We'll be at the Bassmaster Classic if you want to see us there. Instagram, we post on Instagram every day. Send your pictures in, we'll share them, and if you shoot us a message, I'll be the one that responds to you. So.
Amazing. And Kyle,
we're gonna have a witch doctor / throwback party at the classic, man. We'll be there as well. So anyone that's around, the classic's gonna be a huge event out in Tennessee, Knoxville. Come check it out. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff to see, a lot of cool booths, and a lot of cool things to learn just from the fishing space. It's the Super Bowl of fishing. So we'll see you all there.
Amazing. I wish I could be there. I can't. I have prior engagements, but thank you so much to both of you for being here today. I'm Hobbyist Fishing. If you're watching this video, you're probably on my socials already. If not, tell me, please. But thank you all so much.